kulanti wanaagsan oo wacan meel kastoo aad dunida ka joogtaan daawadayaal kuna soo dhowaada waraysi kooban aanu la yeelan doono haddii allaha awooda la yidhaahdo Jeremy Shulman oo ah qareenka ama lawyerkii u doodayay General Sadaq Umar Maxamed oo Sadaq John dadku ay u yaqaanaan inkastoo ka cudurdaartay baa laygu yiri in Sadaq John loogu yeero Sadaq John ayaa UN Monitoring Group waxay ku soo eedeeyeen eedeymo fara badan oo ilaa iyo 11 gaaraya midda ugu xaliisanna ay tahay ama ugu culayska badan in uu Sadaq xiriir la leeyahay ururka al-shabaab una la shaqeeyo sidaa awgeed ayaa lawyerkan maanta aanu soo casunay si uu noogu sheego say wax u jiraan iyo xaaladdu meesha ay marayso dhawaana waxaad arkayseen baraha bulshada la soo geliya arrintan oo soo gabagabowday laakiin annagu baaritaan ayaanu ku jirnay maanu doonayn inaanu horboodno waana dabeecadda TV-ga Universal ilaa waxa ay bislaadaan ma jeclinaanu horboodno si daawadayaasha TV-ga Universal ay u helaan xog buuxda oo tafatiran haddii la yiraahdo warbixintan ayaa waxaa lagu waraystay haddaba qoraal laga sameeyey UN Monitoring Group ay sameysay ayaa waxaa lagu xusay dad fara badan iyo waliba shakhsiyaad Soomaalidu ay taqaano oo lawyerkan u doodaya Sadaq General Sadaq la sameeyeen waraysiyo kala duwan shakhsiyaad kala duwan oo aan si fiican u taqaanaan shakhsiyaadka caawa halkan aad ku maqli doontaan ayaa waxaa ka mid ah haddaan magacyadooda idiin dulmaray intaanan qareenka hawada soo gelino aanan la hadlinin xubin ka tirsan UN Monitoring Group-ka oo magaciisa la yidhaahdo Jade Bahadur la yidhaahdo asagu ahaa madaxa panel of experts markii horena la oran jiray UN Monitoring Group oo magacii hadda bedeshay waxaad kaloo maqli doontaan General Sadaq oo in badan reportkan qaybo fara badan ka mid ah waxaad maqli doontaan Daahir Xasan Guutaale muwaadin Soomaalida la yiraahdo waxaad maqli doontaan Abdullahi Ahmed Maxamed Jiir oo asoo ahaa xubin ka tirsan ururka Nisa waxaad kaloo maqli doontaan haddii ilaahay yiraahdo Xasan waxaad kaloo maqli doontaan Hussein Cusmaan Hussein oo ahaa Director General Nisa ahaan jiray sidoo kale Abdillahi Maxamed Cali Sanbaloshe oo asagu laftigiisu ahaan jiray directorkii hore ee hay'adda Nisa intaan xilka laga wareejinin waxaad kaloo maqli doontaan oo warbixintan si weyn loogu xusay UN-ta la hordhigay Saciid Ahmed Kadiye muwaadin la yiraahdo ahaana Deputy Commissioner of the Police Force waa hagaag sidoo kale waxaad ku maqli doontaan muwaadin kale oo asagana magaciisa la yiraahdo Kamal Guutaale dadkaas oo dhan ayaa waxaa lagu xusay warbixintan aan gacanta ku hayo ay qaybo kala duwan kaga jiraan siyaabo kala duwanna ay u hadlayaan warbixintan sida aan fahansanahay barnaamijkan uu ogaaday waxay ahayd warbixin sir ah oo loogu talagelin in dibadda ay u baxdo laakiin si kastaba ha ahaatee way ligaraysay ama macluumaadkii waa la qaybiyey dadkaana waraysiyada marka laga qaadayo waxaan la soconaa in lagu yiri waxaanu waa confidential waa waxaan gudbi doonin oo meel kale gaari doonin laakiin waxa weeye warka halkan ay wixii dhan ku sugan yihiin waxaba yaraatay qarsoonna ma jiraan waxaanu kale oo nu baaritaan dheer ugu jirnaa laftigiisa dukumenti kale oo naga maqan oo nu barnaamijyadeena dambe ku xusi doono haddaba siday wax u dhaceen iyo eedayntan ka dhan Sadaq lagu eedaynayo ayaanu waxaan rabnaa inaanu lawyerkiisa ama qareenkiisa ka ogaano ilaa iyo sagaashameeyadii ilaa iyo haatan ayay waxaanu soo jiitamayeen oo qoraaladu waxay sheegayaan Sadaq eedamaha loo haystay sagaashameeyadii inay soo bilowdeen aysan ahayn wax maanta bilowday meesha Sadaq iyo lawyerkiisu si adag ay arrintaas isaga u diideen laakiin waxaa la yidhi af jooga looma adeego aan idiin soo dhoweeyo Jeremy oo ah lawyerkiisa ah nin Maraykan ku nool magaalada Washington hadda jooga marka hore waa soo dhoweynaynaa dabadeedna waxaan jeclahay hoosta ku xuso waraysigan 90% ama 95% Ingiriis buu ku baxayaa maadaama aniga asagoo nas af aqoonin maadaama uusan afkeena hooyo aqoonin sidaa awgeed ayaga ku khasbanaa inuu saa ku baxo laakiin insha Allah tacaala waxaan isku dayi doonaa mustaqbalka dhan inaan turjuno Jeremy, welcome to Universal TV and thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this evening.
Good evening. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you, Abdirahman.
Fantastic. I understand your Somali is not that great.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
I'm still learning.
I will strongly recommend you, advise you to learn Somali language because it's one of the best language in the world. Let me tell you.
But not easy. Not easy. I took 6 classes trying to learn it, and I probably picked up about 10 words in those 6 classes.
if a boy who was born in a small, tiny, little village can speak English, i.e., myself, you could definitely will speak one day in Somali. More importantly, let's
Okay.
straight go to the heart of the matter. Could you please explain to us or give us a background information of this case against you, client Sadaq?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. I was contacted by General Sadaq about a year and a half ago, and he came to me with unfortunately, a pretty common story among prominent Somali individuals, businesses, certainly among people in the government. There's a very a difficult relationship that many Somalis have with the UN monitoring group. It's now called the Panel of Experts, but in 2018, in November of 2018, the UN monitoring group prepared its last report, and there was a confidential annex attached to that report that contained some of the most serious but just false and malicious and unsubstantiated allegations concerning General Sadaq. The most serious of which was this allegation that he had ties to Al-Shabaab and was sort of a secret agent for Al-Shabaab. That and all the other allegations in this report, let me just be very clear, were completely false. And even the UN monitoring group who drafted this report didn't even try to substantiate these allegations with anything resembling evidence. On the rare occasion when they would attempt to substantiate an allegation, they would refer to unnamed sources, individuals, who they don't name and don't make public, alleged this or that about General Sadaq. But it was readily apparent just from reviewing the report that these allegations were unfounded and unjustified. But yet they were very serious, and they were contained in a report to the UN Security Council, and that can have very devastating consequences for anybody who finds themselves the subject of such a report. And so the mandate to me was to investigate these claims and figure out the real story, the real truth. And if, as we suspected would be the case, we were able to disprove these allegations. And by the way, a person should not be in the position of having to disprove allegations. The person proposing to make an accusation needs to come forward with proof. That is the standard of proof, the burden of proof that should exist in this world. And the UN didn't even come close to meeting its burden of proof. But we set out to try to clear General Sadaq's name by uncovering the true facts. And that led to my coming to Mogadishu, interviewing a range of witnesses, covering all of the subject matter that the UN purported to cover, but didn't adequately cover in this report. And one thing I found, and this is sort of a pattern that I've noticed when I've represented other clients dealing with a similar issue. As you may know, I also represented Hassan Khaire, the former prime minister, and many others who have been unfortunately in this kind of position of being unfairly targeted by the UN monitoring group. We find that when we start to do the investigation, we learn that the monitoring group themselves didn't do a competent professional investigation. We talked to the people that you would feel you need to talk to corroborate or disprove the allegations, and you find out that these people have never spoken to the monitoring group. No one ever reached out from the UN to interview these relevant witnesses or to try to gather the relevant documents. When we did that, we essentially did the investigation that the monitoring group should have done before recklessly making serious accusations against an innocent Somali individual. We found out readily that these allegations were really easy to disprove. And then we then prepared a lengthy letter that I sent to Jay Bahadur, who at that time was the coordinator of the panel of experts. So going into 2019, the monitoring group had been disbanded and a panel of experts had been put in place, but they put in charge of the panel of experts this individual, Mr. Bahadur, who was a key figure on the monitoring group the prior 2 years. And he has really a notoriously bad track record for making false accusations he can't back up.
If I just could intervene, if I just could intervene there, why would that be? Why would he have such a reputation as somebody who is representing United Nations, who, in the eyes of Somalis, not all of them, particularly the government officials, they are doing a fantastic job in Somalia. Why would such person be in charge?
Well, that's a great question. She never should have been in charge. That was a terrible decision by whoever made that decision. I mean, ultimately, it was the Secretary General of the United Nations, but I'm sure he took somebody's recommendation, and that was a bad decision. The Somali government protested that decision from the beginning. The Somali government actually refused to recognize Mr. Bahadur as the coordinator of the panel of experts and refused to work with him, which, I have my opinion on that. I think that was the right move, because it was just very well established that Mr. Bahadur was not a good faith actor. And there are plenty of other people that UN could have.
Sorry, Jeremy, what do you think his motive was, Mr. Bahadur?
You'll have to ask him why he spent so many years trying to destroy the reputations of honest, well-meaning, good Somali people, why he would write reports without any basis, in fact. I can speculate on what his motivations were. Maybe it's fame and fortune. Maybe it's being relevant in this international community effort to help rebuild Somalia, but to rebuild from the outside with the outside influence. He ended up writing a book and making a movie out of it. So you tell me what his motivations were. One other UN official does work. It does work in a country, and then they come out with a Hollywood film about themselves. You don't see that too often, and you shouldn't see that too often. I don't think someone should be personally profiting from this humanitarian work that they purport to be doing. But the work speaks for itself. Whatever his reasoning, he just has a long track record of putting out reports that have no basis. Same thing happened with Hassan Khaire. And how do we know that there was no basis? Because ultimately, and this doesn't happen too often either, unfortunately, because there really isn't a credible mechanism in place to redress false accusations made by the UN. I'm trying to help put such a mechanism in place. And now we have a few examples where you protest a report, you bring to light the true facts, and then you ask nicely for the UN to rescind or retract the allegation. Of course, they don't respond when you ask nicely, and so you have to push and push and push, and don't not take no for an answer. And ultimately, they retract the allegations, and that's a good thing. And I do want to. I know I'm very critical of the UN in certain ways, but the UN is not monolithic. There's lots of different agencies and divisions and departments of the UN, and some do a great job. My main grievance is with the monitoring group, which became the panel of experts. But I should say, to their credit, there is a new coordinator, and she took this situation seriously, and she did take action to have the most serious allegation against General Sadaq withdrawn, and very clearly and conclusively withdrawn. So I take that as a positive. I hope that will continue. Maybe they're turning over a new leaf. Maybe it's because of the activities of people like myself and others who are, and I credit a lot of people in the Somali government who are standing up for Somali citizens and saying, enough is enough. It's okay for people to examine and investigate, but it has to be done in good faith, and it has to be done according to reasonable standards. And where there's a mistake made, I mean, even if it's not a conscious, deliberate effort to smear somebody, people make mistakes, and where the mistake is made, the UN needs to own up to it and remedy the problem, which in this case I'm very happy they did with General Sadaq.
Right. Just let's go back to by the UN. You think when such an organization with such a magnitude, when reports are being put together, it goes through stages, and people will sift through and do their homework before it ends up a General Security Council? You would think. Are you saying there is a catastrophic failure all the way along, or was just something that only Mr. Bahadur was behind?
No, it's a more institutional problem. I think it's not just any one person. I could name, I don't want to finger other people, but Mr. Bahadur is one of many examples of people associated with these monitoring groups who sort of shoot from the hip, and ask questions later. They just come out with reports. I mean, I can give you an example. Another client of mine a few years ago was called in one report as a suicide bomber. They said he was the suicide bomber in an attack in Puntland a number of years ago. This is Mohammed Zubair. He wasn't a suicide bomber. He was a government official. He was alive and well, and living his life, doing good work for the Somali government. But right. They said he was a suicide bomber. They had his passport, and they put his name in a report. I mean, that's outrageous. And by the way, it took 2 years to get them to recognize that mistake and retract it. In the meantime, what is he doing for 2 years? He can't travel. He can't work. He can't live his life. So it's not. There are failures at every stage of the process, starting from the initial reporting, and then getting these reports corrected. It's not easy. I can tell you, in General Sadaq's case, we went to very high levels within the UN, and their initial answer is, we can't do anything about it. Sorry. Really? That's your answer? You can't do anything about it when someone is falsely accused? I mean, Somali lives are important, just like everybody else.
Absolutely. I'll agree with you on that 100%. Go ahead. Yeah,
so, I think we have to, it's important for people in these positions of leadership and authority. I mean, yes, in principle, on paper, it's an important task. Let's investigate compliance with the sanctions regime that's in place in Somalia. Absolutely. We want to make sure that the laws are properly observed. But, in practice, the job isn't always done the right way. And the people that they put in charge don't always have even experience. I mean, there was a guy before Bahadur, Jarat Chopra, there was Matt Bryden, there was various other people who are on these monitoring groups. They're not professional investigators, many of them. They're journalists. They come. I'm not, with no offense to journalists. Certainly, a journalist can do an investigation, but do they know? They're writing financial reports about alleged corruption in various places in the Somali government. Do you have experience in accounting and forensic accounting? Do you know how to do that kind of investigation? Are you asking the right questions? Are you looking at the right documents? So we need capable, competent people in these positions, and they need to act in good faith.
Right.
They need to understand the seriousness of their work, because if you make a false accusation, you can really destroy someone's life. It can even put them in physical danger.
What would you say?
Of being a member of Al-Shabaab.
What would you say the argument that says, listen, the UN is a massive organization, one or two people, you can find a bad apple in everywhere, but the UN is much better than that and bigger and moving forward. What would you say to that?
I think there's a lot of potential. I agree with you. It's not a monolithic organization. There's great people there in all parts of the world doing very important work, and I commend them for doing that work. Sometimes at great personal sacrifice, but that doesn't mean we should just assume that just because it's the UN doing the work that it's professional and it's credible and it's honest. It isn't always the case. Just like in any organization, right. There are good people and bad people, and so I think people need to stay vigilant and push and make sure that the right people are put in these positions of authority, and that there's accountability when they make a mistake, or even worse, they purposely try to destroy someone's reputation. I think you see quite frequently with these monitoring groups, and hopefully it's changed. Now there's a new organization, the panel of experts, but they find themselves taking sides in political disputes, in political disagreements that are going on within Somalia. And I don't think that's their role. I don't think that should be their role.
Okay,
we should leave the politics to Somalis.
Yep. Somali politics should be left alone for the Somalis to sort it out. I hear you. Just to talk about the people that you interviewed when you went to Somalia, you interviewed countless number of people, among them Dahir Hassan Gutale, and Abdullahi Ahmed Muhammad Jir, Hussein, Abdullahi Muhammad Ali Sambloshe, and Saeed and Ahmed Kahiye. What was this people's reaction? And of course, Kamal Gutale. You didn't interview Kamal Gutale, I understand.
I did not interview him, but I interviewed his father.
Right.
And I know him. I've met him many times. And what's your question?
You interviewed his father, and when I read this, his father and himself, they don't see things eye to eye in terms of the allegations against Sadaq.
That appears to be true. I didn't speak to Kamal directly, so I can't say for sure what his perspective is, but I can tell you categorically, the father spoke very highly of General Sadaq. The father, General Sadaq, lived with him, in the 90s and early 2000s, and attested to General Sadaq's wonderful character, and completely repudiated any suggestion that General Sadaq has been anything other than a model citizen, both when he was younger and today.
Right. I personally do not know Kamal Gutale at all, but from what I gather, is a decent gentleman. That's what I hear. Credit to him. Anyway, we are moving on to the end of time. I have 2 or 3 more questions to ask you. I'm sure you've been asked this before, and I earlier alluded to one of my questions. Why would individuals within the UN will jeopardize the work of the Somali government and the dream of the Somali people and the work of the UN itself?
You'll have to ask them. Again, I think
you must have some sort of idea.
Actors they have their own individual motivations. I think, with Mr. Bahadur, his record speaks for itself. What he's doing and what he has done outside of the UN speaks for itself. Others, maybe they think they're helping, but they're not, or they're on one side of a political debate and are so ideological and so colored by their ideology that they don't see the other side, they don't respect the other side, and they're willing to engage in efforts to destroy the other side. again, I don't think this is what the UN should be doing. I don't think is what the UN is doing, by and large. But I think we have examples with some people on the monitoring group over the years. And I'm not talking about the current panel. I don't know them. And all I know about them is actually that they've done the right thing with regard to General Sadaq. So I'm not trying to criticize the current people on the panel of experts, but in the past, and I think there have been complaints about some of these people, and changes have been made. So credit the leadership who ultimately, is willing to listen and correct some of these appointments. And maybe now we're on a better path. We'll have to wait and see.
Just for the record, our understanding here at Universal TV, here in London and other studios we have around the world, is that the UN is massively contributing the rebuilding of Somalia, and that is something to celebrate. And like I said earlier, in massive organization like that, you'll find a few bad apples everywhere. Bad apples, as people put it sometimes. I have a video clip that I would like you to comment about, and I'm sure that you have seen this video. Let's watch this clip. It's a few seconds long.
Madam President, I would like to inform that the panel of experts has clarified, upon the review of information previously submitted to the committee by its predecessor, the Somalia and Eritrea Monitoring Group, regarding General Sadaq Omar Mohammed, that no evidence was found of affiliation to Al-Shabaab, and that General Sadaq is not the subject of current investigations by the panel. I thank you, Madam President.
I'm sure you have seen that Jeremy video before. What was it about?
Yes.
And the context he's speaking about?
Well, that's what I think I was referring to earlier. That is the chair of the Sanctions Committee, who's the ambassador from Belgium, announcing that they are exonerating General Sadaq of the most serious allegation that was made in the November 2018 report of having an association with Al-Shabaab. They're confirming what is obvious, that there is no evidence and never was any evidence of any affiliation between General Sadaq and terrorist groups or any kind of acts of terrorism. And he's also confirming that there's no further investigation ongoing with regard to General Sadaq. So that's wonderful. And we're grateful that the chair has made that announcement. And we commend him for doing that. We commend the panel of experts for reporting that to him. And we consider this matter involving General Sadaq to be successfully concluded.
So this case is closed indefinitely.
I don't have any present plans, to do anything further. I think that our voice was heard, and we raised very serious challenge and complaint on what happened in November 2018. And now the panel of experts and the chair of the Sanctions Committee has appropriately responded. They're still writing reports about people, and I get calls quite frequently, actually, from others who feel they've been unfairly treated by the panel of experts or the monitoring group in a prior report. So this may not be the last you hear from me on these types of issues, and I'll always help if I can, where I see that there's unfair treatment of friends and people in Somalia who I care about. But with regard to General Sadaq, we're very happy.
You say friends. You accuse for Mr. Bahadur for financial gains that he's doing this, and that same things can be said about you. You are a solicitor and you're making money out of this. You're not doing it for free, are you?
I'm not making a lot of money, and I
You're
don't
still making
make money from every case.
You're still making money. There's no free lunch.
Well, there is a free lunch sometimes. I do work for free sometimes. I do. Have you heard of the concept of pro bono work? We do in the United States. Lawyers do that. We actually have a duty to do that, and I do that a fair amount in Somalia. I am a private lawyer, and I do represent clients, and I do get paid a fee, and I'm proud to do that. And you probably get paid for being a journalist, as you should.
Oh boy!
I say friends in a kind of loose way. I think I count many friends among people in Somalia, people all across the country and in the diaspora. I mean, maybe not everybody likes me or I like them, but I feel a sense of kinship with many people in that country.
Right.
I've been there many times. I want to go back and at some point, and I want to help to the extent I can.
Fantastic. I welcome you and your colleagues to go back to Somalia and see this wonderful young country and the potential that it offers to its inhabitants and people in the neighborhood and neighbors around the world. Two quick questions. If you could, in a nutshell, answer these questions for me, I'll be grateful to you. One, since they admitted they got it wrong and Sadaq is now off the hook and not under investigation anymore, is Sadaq entitled for compensation, or are you going to apply compensation on his behalf?
That hasn't been finally determined. That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we can always ask for compensation, but there's really a very limited mechanism to take legal action, to like you would in a private dispute, where you can go to court and seek compensation. So we're not doing that, and that's never been my motivation, nor Sadaq's motivation, to be honest. It's never been about money. We never asked for money. What we've asked for is justice. We've asked for the record to be corrected so that this good man's name can be cleared and he can continue doing the very important work that he's doing to keep Somalis safe. It's ironic. They accused him of being someone who is associated with, a group that's causing so much death and destruction in Somalia, when in reality he's doing the exact opposite. He's fighting to keep people safe and help restore, peace and calm to Somalia. And we need people, I think you would agree with me, we need more and more people focusing on that and being, congratulated and commended for that, not put under unfair attack. I think we want to encourage and incentivize, many more General Sadaqs to emerge and to, help restore a safe and secure community, both in the Banaadir region and all around Somalia.
Finally, these individuals that you have interviewed in Somalia that I mentioned their names, I understand that they consent. They were happy to give you the interview, but did they knew one day their names will be published?
Did they know? I mean, they knew what we were doing, and I asked them, would you be willing to sign a sworn statement? And they knew how it would be used. Did they know that my confidential letter would be leaked by someone at the UN to the international media? I mean, they probably should have assumed that was a possibility, because that is their pattern in practice, but that never should have happened. That's really disgraceful, actually. If you see the letter that you have in front of you, it says on it very prominently, it's highly confidential.
Yes.
And we did everything we could to keep the matter confidential. I don't think these witnesses, need to be, exposed publicly for just trying to cooperate and help tell the truth about an individual. But yet now their names are out there because of someone's very reckless action, and I don't know who did that, but it's someone connected to the UN. So I'm proud that they were willing to talk with us and sign these statements, They did that freely and fairly and under oath, and because they thought it was the right thing to do.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for being with us. That is the end of this interview. We're grateful for the time you've given to us. Looking forward to speak to you in the near future. Thank you very much and have a nice day. daawadayaal intaas ayaan kusoo gabagabaynaynaa waraysiga aanu la yeelanaynay qareenka ama lawyerka u doodayay General Sadaq Cumar Maxamed oo dadku ay yaqaanaan san hore u sheegay Sadaq John dukumentigaas aan maqlayseen ba in uu ka baxa ma ahayn baa la yiri faraha dadkii loogu talagalay oo asaga iyo ahaa UNT laakiin waanu idinla wadaagnay sababtuna waxay tahay macluumaadka dadku ay rabaan inay ogaadaan waa in la idiin soo bandhigaa ciddii mooradeeda dadan weyda waxa weeye waa loo soo gelaya waa idin mahad celinaynaa daawashadiina iyo barnaamijkan qayb qaadashadiina magacyada anigu aan halkan ka akhriyay ay ka mid yihiin daahir xasan guutaale iyo cabdulaahi axmed محمد جير حسين عبد الله محمد علي سنبلوشة سعيد أحمد كدية أي دتك على مذا magacyadaas oo dhan waxay ku qornaayeen reportkan waxayna ahaayeen dadkii la waraystay wax TV-ga Universal ay keentay maahan with exception aysan ninkaan waraysanin oo ah mudane Kamaal Guutaale laakiin UN to ayadu gooni u waraysatay si ay warar aanan xaqiijin karin Universal ahaan ay sheegayaan laakiin warqadda waxaa ku qoran in uu dacwo ka dhan Sadaq uu gudbiyay waa sida qoraalkan ku qoran annagu ma xaqiijin karno asaga maaragtay ayaa dabcan xaqiijin kara laftigiisa fursad baanu siinay dadka kale si ay markaas ayagu u soo bandhigaan hoosteena ka xariiqo waa UN inaan la xiriirno inaan isku dayno inaan dhinacooda laftigooda wax ka ogaano si ay maaragtay noola hadlaan oo ayaguna kiiskooda ay u soo bandhigaan si aan u ilaalino balansiga ama impartialityga media uu ku dhisan yahay labada dhinac bayna wareysatid arrintaas ma aysan suurtagelinin xaqooda aysan ka suurtagelinin barnaamijka waxa idin soo saaray Cabdulla Mudhir waxa farsameynaya Abdihakiin Fiqi waxa idin socodsiinayay aniga waa Cabdixafiin Maxamuud Jaamac adiga ayaa daawanayay intaanu kala dib u kulmi doono guul iyo gobonimo. Assalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaah.